Damien Chazelle and his apparent muse, Ryan Gosling, have teamed up again for First Man after massive success with La La Land. This is not a musical, though. This is the story of Neil Armstrong and getting to the moon. We get a sense of who this human being is, but he's such a driven human being. He's kind of a tough nut to crack. And Ryan Gosling does a fantastic job, just sort of gritting his teeth and furrowing his brow and kind of diving into the workload that it takes to become an astronaut, an impossible position in the 1960s. He was part of the Apollo missions, as we all know. And this story has famously been told from a slightly different vantage point in The Right Stuff, which came out in 1983, which I encourage everybody to see because that's a sensational movie. And this movie is also done incredibly well. One of the things that Damien Chazelle really nails is the period setting and the haircuts and the grainy film. I mean, he cuts to a little bit of newsreel footage in here and then back into the photography of the film, and it's kind of hard to separate the two, which is impressive. We get to see not just Neil Armstrong's kind of drive and his determination to be the best astronaut on Earth, you know, in a field of not very many, and we see a lot of devastation along the way because it was an incredibly difficult and dangerous position. But we also get to see what it's like for him at home and his family life. And the movie starts off with something incredibly tragic that I had no idea of. Neil Armstrong and his wife Janet lost their daughter Karen, and we see little vignettes, little moments of the hardship and the pain, and also, you know, how that registers on this human being as he leans into the workload and really becomes like this super proficient, brilliant engineer, this person that can almost robotically figure stuff out and save himself from treacherous situations. The emotional impact of the loss of his daughter, it resonates throughout his life and throughout this film. And as an audience member and as a father of a daughter, I was really moved by all of that. But, you know, for the most part, this movie does an incredible job at celebrating the ingenuity and the determination and the celebration and the exhilaration and also the travails, the real hardships that this ragtag group of scientists and test pilots and engineers sort of all got together to do something impossible. And it was more than 50 years ago that all of these space missions were starting to happen. The moon landing is 50 years ago next year. And it's just incredible to believe that at the time they landed on the moon, it wasn't really much more than 50 years since the first flights were happening on Earth. And how far everybody got to, you know? And what's really impressive about this movie is that, you know, along with the details, the period details, they also got us into these bucket of bolt spaceships, and holy crap is it scary as hell, because we're actually in these little capsules and the camera's, you know, tight on faces and maybe tight on some of the screws that look like they're going to come out. And Chazelle really does an amazing job of just shaking the whole experience and putting us into the G-forces and making us feel like we're in these little cockpits with these daredevils and we're blasting off into space, and how damn dangerous all of that feels, you know? These guys were kind of insane to strap themselves to rockets and just go up into space and, you know, cross their fingers and hope that they survive. But it was much more than that. It's really incredible. It's a story that deserves to be told and retold, and I think Chazelle's got a different kind of slant on it. His perspective is very truthful and, you know, handled very well. And Ryan Gosling and Claire Foy are the, you know, major standouts as performers, but Kyle Chandler's in here, Jason Clarke is in here. Everybody is great. The music's a bit weird, though, because I did hear echoes of music that I heard in La La Land. I don't know if it's the same composer or whatever, but it almost felt like there was a carryover there, which was a bit nuts.
I think it would be unreasonable to assume that it wouldn't have some effect.
I love this movie, though. I love movies that celebrate science and human perseverance and you know, heroes. This is a massive story, and Chazelle and his team did a great job. I'm going to give First Man a 9 out of 10.